Welcome back to the deep dive. Sometimes the most profound warnings from nature aren't the loud ones, like crashing waves or roaring fires. Sometimes they're more like eerie whispers phenomena so subtle, yet, well, really unsettling. They reshape how we see the planet. Today, we're diving into two of them, ghost rivers and rainless storms. And these aren't just, scientific curiosities. They are real, pressing signals from our world. And honestly, the implications for you are probably far more direct than you might think. So our mission in this deep dive, let's unpack these stark warnings. We'll use our sources as a kind of shortcut to understanding these crucial, often overlooked planetary distress signals. Okay, so let's start with ghost rivers. We've maybe heard the term, perhaps seen old maps with waterways that aren't there anymore. But what does it really mean for a river, once this source of life, to just disappear, to exist only as a shadow? Could you unpack for us the chilling reality of what defines a ghost river today?
It is. It's genuinely haunting. Imagine a river that once flowed, full of life-giving water. Civilizations grew up around it, but now it exists invisibly, maybe beneath the surface, sometimes completely underground, or in some cases just not at all. And the really striking thing is these aren't just forgotten streams. They often still show up on old maps, right? They're referenced in history. They nourish generations. But today they're bone dry or buried, just a whisper of what they used to be. And we see these really striking examples all over the world. Take the Saraswati River in India. For a long time, people thought it was basically mythical, just a legend. But evidence now points to it being this vast, thriving system, now essentially a ghost beneath the sands.
Wow.
Or think about California's Owens River.
Once vibrant, right?
Then its waters were diverted to feed Los Angeles. Now it's a dusty, parched basin. A very stark reminder of human impact.
I think I read about that one.
And then there's Africa's Lake Chad Basin. I mean, it has shrunk by over 90% since the 1960s.
90%.
90%. It's led to fragmented waterways, massive displacement of populations. It's a huge crisis.
That Saraswati River example, that's powerful, sort of bridging myth and, well, modern ecological crisis. So when we talk about these ghost rivers, are we mainly looking at ancient geological shifts over millennia? Or is this mostly a modern thing driven by us?
That's a really important distinction.
Right.
And while, yes, some river shifts are natural, happening over vast timescales, the really unsettling part here, the key insight, is that this isn't just history. It's happening now. It's our present. Many rivers globally are drying up right now, not because of some ancient myth, but because of our own misuse, plus the accelerating effects of climate change and just aggressive exploitation. Think about modern cities like Beijing or Sao Paulo. Their underground aquifers are being pumped out so fast that the rivers simply can't sustain their surface flow anymore. They vanish from sight and almost from collective memory. It's a direct mirror of our consumption patterns.
That image, rivers drying to a whisper.
Yeah.
It's incredibly stark. But nature has another kind of equally unsettling trick up its sleeve, right? This phenomenon where the sky can thunder, look really furious, but offer no relief. Can you paint us a picture of that? What happens when a storm essentially forgets how to rain?
Absolutely. Yeah, imagine this. The sky goes dark, right? You hear that ominous rumble of thunder, maybe see flashes of lightning cutting through the gloom. You automatically brace for a downpour, don't you?
Right. Instinctively.
Except no rain falls. That's a rainless storm. The clouds build up, they're charged with energy, with potential precipitation, but they just don't release the water. Or, and this is maybe even more common and just as devastating, the raindrops actually evaporate before they even hit the ground.
Evaporate midair.
Exactly. That process has a name, vert. You get all the danger, the lightning, the potential for flash floods if it did rain, but none of the benefit. And meteorologists, they're seeing these storms more and more frequently, often in really vulnerable places. In Australia, for instance, high heat, low humidity. It often leads to these dramatic thunderclouds that produce zero rainfall, and that dramatically intensifies bushfire risks.
Because of the lightning strikes.
Precisely. Lightning without the rain to potentially dampen things. You see it in places like Arizona and New Mexico, too, where virga is pretty common during their monsoon seasons. Lightning strikes spark wildfires, but without that balancing effect of rain, the fires just rage. And even in Europe, places like Greece and Portugal, these dry lightning events are on the rise. They're causing catastrophic forest fires. It's a really clear message, isn't it? Our planet's weather systems are, well, they're breaking their own rules.
Breaking their own rules.
Yeah,
that's a chilling phrase. And it makes you wonder about the bigger story here. These things seem quite different, ghost rivers, rainless storms. How do they connect? Is there like a unified warning they're sending us?
Well, what's really striking, I think, is that both of these phenomena, ghost rivers and rainless storms, they are unmistakably part of a much larger, unsettling shift in Earth's ecosystems. They aren't just, oddities for scientists to study. They feel like urgent warnings, warnings of a planet seriously out of balance. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, several key factors, contributors, emerge from the sources. They're all intertwined. First off, there's water mismanagement, just straight up. Human activities, things like building massive dams, over-extracting groundwater. We are literally silencing rivers faster than nature can possibly replenish them.
Right.
Then you've got urban expansion. Our concrete cities, they're basically suffocating ancient waterways, diverting them, burying rivers completely under streets and buildings.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And of course, heat waves and evaporation, that plays a huge role. Rising global temperatures mean more potential rain just evaporates. Before it can soak into the soil, before it can fill reservoirs, and beyond that, you have altered jet streams. Climate change is shifting these massive wind patterns, and that can stall whole storm systems in one place or drain rivers somewhere else, cause totally unseasonal droughts or floods. It messes everything up.
And amidst all that, you also mentioned something, it sounded profound. The loss of ecosystem memory. Can you elaborate on that a bit? It sounds almost poetic, but also incredibly dire.
It is dire, yeah. Imagine a landscape literally losing its memory. The ancient rhythm of its water, right? The predictable pulse of its storms. That's what we mean by loss of ecosystem memory. It's not just a river vanishing, it's like an entire natural symphony going silent. It permanently alters the fabric of life that depended on it. Once a river dies or a storm pattern fundamentally changes, well, entire ecosystems can collapse. Fish, plants, birds, even human communities. They lose that natural rhythm they've relied on, sometimes for millennia. It's a permanent shift.
That paints a stark picture. And it's so interconnected. It's easy to think of these things as distant headlines, problems for someone else, somewhere far away. But these silent transformations you're describing, vanishing rivers, empty storms, they must ripple outwards in ways we might not immediately connect. Tell us, why is understanding this stuff so critically important for every one of us, even if we don't live next to a parched riverbed?
That's really the crucial question, isn't it? Because the impact, it absolutely goes far beyond abstract science. We're talking about direct, real-world consequences for everyone. Doesn't matter where you live. Think about agriculture. Crops fail when rainfall isn't dependable, or when irrigation from once reliable rivers dries up. That affects global food supplies, prices.
You have to food on the shelves.
Exactly. And then health. Dried riverbeds, they kick up huge dust storms. That causes respiratory diseases, and the smoke from wildfires sparked by dry lightning. It chokes cities sometimes hundreds of miles away. Air quality plummets.
We've seen that happen more and more.
We have. And economies suffer hugely. Tourism, fishing, farming industries, they can simply collapse when the water vanishes. And don't forget culture. For many communities, especially indigenous and rural ones, sacred rivers and seasonal rains are part of their spiritual lifeblood. When they disappear, heritage disappears. A fundamental connection to the land is lost. So, we are no longer just talking about future generations suffering the effects. For many people, the future has arrived, and it's bone dry and lit by lightning.
It's a truly sobering picture you've painted. It just makes you realize how deeply interconnected everything really is, from the water we drink to the air we breathe, even the stories we tell. Do you find in your work that people are often surprised when they connect these sort of abstract phenomena to such immediate personal impacts?
Often, yes. I think the scale of the planet can feel so vast, these big shifts can seem distant, almost theoretical. But when you start talking about, the air quality alerts because of wildfire smoke, or the rising cost of certain foods, or the loss of a local fishing spot, suddenly it becomes very real, very personal. And that's exactly why these whispers from nature, as you called them, are so important to amplify.
Absolutely. That's why we're having this deep dive. And on that note, here's where it gets really interesting, perhaps. While the challenges are clearly immense, are there glimmers of hope? Are there solutions, pathways forward? Can we address these changes? Maybe even bring some ghost rivers back to life? Or, encourage clouds to actually release their rain?
Yes, absolutely, there is hope. But it definitely hinges on urgent and, frankly, intelligent action. One really fascinating area is rewilding rivers. There are actual projects happening across the globe aiming to restore some of these ghost rivers, bringing them back to the surface. For instance, in London, the river Quaggy was buried under concrete for years. It's been daylighted, brought back out. And that improves biodiversity, helps with urban cooling.
That's amazing.
It is, and you see similar efforts with the Cheonggyechun Stream in Seoul, which is a huge success story. And projects in Nairobi, parts of the U.S., it's about reconnecting our urban landscapes with their natural waterways. Then there's the more controversial approach, cloud seeding and rain engineering. Some regions are actively experimenting with spraying particles into clouds to try and encourage rainfall.
Right.
Now, it's definitely not a silver bullet. And the long-term effects, well, they're still being studied pretty intensely. But it represents an effort, right? An attempt to manage microclimates that are clearly under severe distress, a kind of direct intervention.
Cloud seeding. Yeah, that does sound, well, almost like a desperate measure, maybe. Or, as some might frame it, like playing God. While it offers maybe a glimmer of hope, are there big debates? Known drawbacks to meddling with such complex natural systems.
Oh, absolutely. That's precisely why it's controversial. The debates often center on unintended consequences. What if, by making it rain here, you're essentially stealing rain from a region downwind? Or what about the environmental impact of the actual substances, the agents used in seeding? It really highlights the complexity. There are no easy, perfect answers here. Any solution has to be considered really carefully within the whole ecological context. But I think it also underscores the sheer urgency people feel to find any kind of pathway forward. And beyond those kinds of interventions, we're also seeing the emergence of smart water policies. Nations are seriously rethinking how they manage every single drop. Look at Israel's very advanced water recycling programs, for example, or India's ambitious, though also quite controversial, river interlinking plans. They raise big questions about ecological disruption, local impacts.
Right, never simple.
Never simple. And we're also seeing more technological aids, things like drones for really precise irrigation and farming, AI-based flood prediction systems, helping us balance scarcity with efficiency. But, fundamentally, we can't ignore the root cause of so much of this, which is global warming. Only aggressive collective action globally to curb greenhouse gas emissions. Through policies, technology changing our behavior, only that can really stabilize weather patterns in the long run and give our planet a chance to heal itself.
This deep dive, it's really shown us that ghost rivers and rainless storms, they are powerful metaphors, aren't they? Earth's metaphors for this age of human impact. They're haunting symbols of what we've already lost and, frankly, urgent warnings of what could still vanish.
It makes you think, if rising seas are maybe the loud crashes of nature's fury, then these ghost rivers and rainless storms, they're more like its whispers. Soft, eerie, and, chilling. They tell stories of imbalance, of excess, of neglect, but they also remind us that nature is still speaking. We really need to listen.
Listen before the rivers vanish completely. Listen before the clouds just thunder in silence forever. So the question, maybe, for you to carry forward from this is, how can you learn to listen, to hear the whispers in your own environment? What small, seemingly minor shifts around you might actually be significant warnings that maybe we're currently overlooking, something to ponder?